SalesStar Podcast, Episode 2, Sales Plan.
Hi, it's Paul O'Donoghue here, CEO and founder of SalesStar. I've got my guest, my partner in crime, Alex Chan, the Head of Learning and Development. Welcome, Alex.
Good to be here again, Paul.
So in today's session, we're going to be talking about the importance of having a sales plan. More importantly, we'll be talking about the one-page plan, the simplified, effective and profound sales plan that we've developed. So Alex, in your experience when you're working with organizations, CEOs, growth-minded CEOs, sales managers, sales leaders, how many of them have an effective sales plan?
Far less than 50%.
Far less than 50%.
Yeah, some do have them, there's no doubt about that, but even then they don't always have everything that a plan should have. So I think in both cases, it really comes down to people not really knowing what should be in a plan. So some really have a go at writing one, right. Others don't know where to begin, and so they do nothing at all. So the question is, what should be in a plan? Where do they begin? I mean, a lot of them were taught how to write plans on the basis that a lot of them used to be salespeople. They didn't necessarily do a business diploma or anything like that. So for the first time, they're faced with the prospect of applying some business training that they never had. A lot of them fear doing it because they think that it has to look like War and Peace. But I think we've got it pretty simple for those who are untrained, and that's really all that they need, which of course we'll talk about in a moment anyway.
Yeah.
But I mean, from your perspective, what do you think should be in a plan? What message would you have for our listeners?
Well, War and Peace is not what you want because people never complete it. They overcomplicate it, right? When it's overcomplicated, guess what happens?
It never gets used.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah. It's paralysis by analysis.
It's that dusty book on the shelf.
Absolutely, yeah. So the first thing is, when we set out to understand what should be in a performance plan and why sales plans don't work, we set out to make it simple and actionable and really cut to the chase in terms of the key things that should be in a sales plan.
So a lot of our viewers are going to be really interested in this because you say we've got this down to one page.
One page.
Yeah. So that means that whether we're trained or untrained in the nuances of business planning, pretty much any sales manager should be able to pick this up.
Well, pretty much with a little bit of guidance. There's some stuff there that they'll need to be educated on and maybe need an expert or a coach to coach them through. But it's once they get the concepts, they'll be able to recycle this plan year after year or quarter after quarter. They'll be able to issue the sales plan to their salespeople so they can buy into it and they can hold them accountable to the plan. It's pretty simple, really, because I think, the best laid out plans are very simple. Simplicity is genius. It's just about getting to the right things to make it simple, make it effective.
Less is more.
Less is more.
So, okay, before we get into what's actually in the one-page plan, perhaps you could just outline for me, please, why should a sales manager have one?
Well, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Yes. Yes.
The issue with sales planning is if a sales manager and a lot of companies we work with aren't clear on where growth is coming from. So if you don't plan where your growth's coming from, then you're not going to be that effective. You don't have a high-performing organization. So the very first thing we look at is where the numbers are going to come from.
So that's the first thing that should be in a plan?
First thing should be in a plan is the numbers. Like, where's growth going to come from? So, and there's so many different ways that you can pick a number, pick a budget. There's bottom-up goals, there's, bottom-down. So it's about stress testing the numbers. But effectively, when we're looking at a plan, we want to, and a plan, here's the thing, most people get it wrong, is they have a set of numbers, but numbers alone are not a plan, right? Numbers are just numbers. So it's about getting the right mix and having the numbers with leading indicators, with target market. Like, who's your target market you should be speaking on?
Who should our salespeople be talking to?
Yeah. How many times do our salespeople have the wrong conversations with the wrong people?
A sales engineer talks to a chief engineer. That person influences the decision but does not necessarily make the decision. But it's that sales engineer's go-to.
Absolutely. So a plan should be really clear on who we should be speaking to and having conversations with, when we should be speaking to them, and who in our organisation is speaking to them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you mean you could have multiple people talking to them?
Well, you could do. You could have what we call is when we lock in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know the word for it.
It's a multi-lock.
Multi-lock,
Yeah,
absolutely.
So you've got all of our stakeholders, all of their stakeholders,
Absolutely.
multiple relationships.
Yep. So
Yep.
that absolutely could be part of the plan.
Mm-hmm.
But it's more mapping out who you're targeting, when are you going to target them, who the ideal person within that company you should be speaking to, the ideal company, and more importantly, it should also include your strategic messaging.
Mm-hmm. And this is things like our unique value proposition.
Yep,
Our
UVPs,
elevator pitch. Yeah.
elevator pitch,
Yeah,
your positioning
makes-
statements.
Yeah, what makes us different? I agree with that because you get, as we said on an earlier video, you get some people who the whole sales organisation gives a different UVP, but it gets really tedious to the buyer after a while because they hear the same thing from their competitors as well.
Yes, absolutely. But the key thing about a plan is actually the leading indicators.
Now, for the benefit of our viewers,
Yes.
what's a leading indicator? That's a kind of KPI, isn't it, as opposed to, say, a lagging indicator?
Well, where most companies get it wrong, Alex, is they measure lagging KPIs.
So this is sales this month actual compared to budget. That's a lagging indicator.
Absolutely financial.
Mm-hmm.
And why are they lagging? Because it's after the fact, the sale's already been made.
Mm.
But if you focus on the leading indicators, that's all the activities leading to the sale, the road to the sale, so to speak, all the key milestones, then you're able to measure behaviour and activity of the salespeople. So, and there'll be a correlation to how much activity they do to how many sales they made.
You're talking
It's
about
absolutely science, It's
So you're talking about, say, how many presentations they do on average before they get a sale.
yeah,
So that dictates how many presentations they should be doing.
yes,
That's a leading indicator. It's predictive.
yeah. And do you know the best part of the sales plan, Alex, is that you can reverse engineer your goals.
Mhm.
You can stretch your target, and you can, through backwards thinking, if you know the key milestones in your process, you can engineer success, right? By knowing, your conversion ratios, your average sales. So, you can get clear on what does success look like. How many proposals do we need to have per year, per month, per week, per day? How many first meetings do we need to have? How many first phone calls? Like
And
if there's
how many presentations?
and how many presentations? Yes, and for that matter, how many account management calls you would need to make. So just getting clear on the leading activities, on the behaviour, is going to lead to high performance in an organisation.
I wonder how many of our viewers actually know that. That is, they know intellectually, but do they actually know the actual numbers? Like, what activity does the salesperson have to do? How much of that activity, in terms of if we put a quantifiable number on it, I wonder how many really know their numbers, because you say that's the first part of the plan, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd be more interested to know how many would be interested in downloading it if we offered it for them for free.
Is that going to be an offer later on?
Well, why not? Why don't we just offer it now?
Okay, let's do that.
Why don't we just, so we've developed this amazing and really powerful one-page strategy, this one-page plan, and it's available for you to download. Just click on the button, download it. It's very easy to follow. We'll give you some instructional guide. There'll be a video that follows with it. It is a game changer. It'll help you get clear on success for the next 12 months and beyond. So enjoy.